So what are you seeing right now? Are you just seeing me or me and everyone else?
I have it right now on presenter view, so I just see
okay,
you. And
okay. So everyone can choose what they see.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm going to keep it then on this grid view.
Yeah.
Okay.
That way you can see everybody kind of in full.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so preheating oven, is that?
Oh, yes. So should we, am I starting? Should we just start?
Yeah, let's go ahead and start.
Okay.
If people trickle in.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. All right, guys. Well, I'm actually recording on my phone too, so make sure you don't say anything incriminating because it's going to go all over YouTube. Okay, so tonight we are going to make some stuffed butternut squash, and it's going wild tonight, baby. So you all have to preheat your oven to 450, so let that start heating up. The first thing you want to do when you buy butternut squash or really any kind of whole squash in general is it's obviously super tough. Now, unless you're like Danny Carvajal, you do Orange Theory and you're super strong, you're gonna have to heat this bad boy up in the microwave to kind of soften it up. So what I do is I'll either take a fork or a sharp knife and I punch holes in the squash, okay, all around just to help it kind of steam. And then you put it in the microwave, depending on how large your squash is. For this one, I put in there for 4 minutes, so it's gonna depend. If you get like a smaller, let's say like a baby spaghetti squash or an acorn squash, you may just want to heat it up for like 3 to 4 minutes. So who's cooking with me? Danny, is it just you? I'm assuming. You are, okay. Okay, cool. So pop it in the microwave. Mine's already been in the microwave for probably 4 minutes or so.
Sorry, I was on mute.
You're cooking too?
Yeah, here's my butternut.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Amazing.
First time I follow instructions in my life.
Okay, perfect. So if you all are heating it up, mine's already heated up, so I'm going to go ahead and just cut it in half.
Michelle, you said you did that size for like 4 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. But you vented it, right? You stuck some holes in there?
Yeah.
Okay,
I stuck a whole bunch.
Yep. And I do this with spaghetti squash all the time too, and it just makes your life a whole lot easier. The nice thing about doing things with squash is the squash shell itself kind of serves as your vessel. So I'm going to show you a lot of things that you can kind of do with that. So you cut it in half here. Now you're going to take either a fork or a spoon, and you want to spoon out the seeds.
Michelle, what was your inspiration for this recipe?
So my inspiration, let me just get out the seeds in a second. I love squash. You know, I think there are so many different ways that we can use it. And I'm always looking for things that are going to fill me up, but things that are also low in calorie and low in carbohydrates. I kind of eat with my brain. So if I see a very small plate, then that doesn't really feed my brain. I still feel like I'm hungry. So I like to choose these low calorie options where you can eat a whole bunch of it and all the dietary fiber, all the nutrients in here are really good for the gut microbiome, so overall gut health. Particularly with the whole COVID situation, everyone's like overdosing on vitamin C and they're taking zinc. They're literally taking 5 or 10 supplements when they've never taken pills before. But really, if we would just eat whole food, the nutrients in the food are in their correct proportions. It's kind of interesting because when you kind of use these super doses of, let's say, vitamin C, which is an antioxidant, in doses that are out of the normal, they can actually be pro-inflammatory and in some cases can actually increase the risk of certain cancers. So I really always promote, you know, getting your nutrients from food because it's in the correct proportions. So I spooned out the seeds here. And then you're basically going to put some parchment paper on a baking dish here. With the parchment paper, you honestly don't really have to use cooking spray, but I do just so it doesn't get super sticky. So I'll just spray that a little bit, and then you literally just take kind of the flesh side down, and you're gonna lay it down on your dish. So let me just spoon it out here, and then I'll do the other one.
Looks like we may have actually had somebody else join for a split second, and then they popped off.
They probably saw the title Gone Wild, and then they realized I was actually wearing a dress, and so. Okay, so here's the other side here, and I'm gonna put it down in my baking dish, and then that's it. So literally you're just gonna take your baking dish and now pop it in your oven at 450. Depending on how big your squash is, it's gonna go in for about 25 minutes, but you may wanna take it out periodically and kind of see how soft it is.
How hot is this going to be? It's pretty hot.
So it was face down or face up?
Yeah, the flesh is face down, so the hard skin is up. And then once it's in, you're gonna set your timer. Do it for about 25 minutes, and then we can always kind of check to see how it looks. So skin
Can I do it
facing
in an
down.
air fryer, by the way?
Do I have an air fryer?
No, can I do it in an air fryer to save time?
You could. I don't know what I don't know how long it would take. I don't know how big your air fryer is. The only problem is, I'm not sure if it would kind of cook all the way through. It may make just like the bottom part quite crispy. I'm not sure. Usually if I'm gonna air fry something, then I'm cutting up the squash and I'm kind of dicing it up out of the skin, and that way it cooks kind of evenly all around.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I'll actually show you kind of one already done here. This was something that I just put in the oven earlier today, and this is just a little baby acorn squash. So if you're literally just cooking for yourself, then you get a smaller squash, and this takes a lot less time to cook. And same thing, I put it in the baking dish, put it face down, and literally you could take this and maybe some like avocado or whatever you like, hummus, and you literally just put it in the center, and that would be an awesome snack or a small meal. So super easy. You don't even need a bowl. You literally just eat it right out of the shell. And then I have these little seared ahi tuna things. So if you wanted to add some lean protein in there, then having that with the acorn squash would be absolutely perfect. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and get started with the stuffing as the squash is cooking. So the first step is you wanna place your pan on medium heat. So I got my pan here. So put it on medium heat. You can use then a non-stick cooking spray. I just have a little bit of olive oil here, so I'm gonna put it in the pan, let that heat up a little bit. And then if everyone has already pre-chopped their celery and their onion, so I have 3 stalks of celery here. The nice thing about things like celery is it is so low in calorie. So if I'm doing a snack or even like a meal, a lot of times I use celery in the meal because of the high water content. So it helps kind of fill you up. Also high in fiber and super low in calories. And then we have a medium onion. Obviously, it's a little bit hard to say how big is the medium onion. So here's kind of the onion chopped up, and then depending on how much onion you want in your dish, you can kind of play around with the quantities. So again, we're heating up our pan here. We're gonna add the onion and the celery and cook it for a few minutes until it's slightly softened. I'm just excited because I get to eat all this food afterwards and none of you get my leftovers. Okay, so that's cooking there. Okay, and then the next step is I have my frozen cauliflower. So 4 cups of frozen cauliflower, and then I have 1 cup of frozen spinach. The other really nice thing about this dish is, although there's not tons of ingredients, but honestly a lot of the ingredients are already done. I didn't have to put the cauliflower in the food processor. I didn't have to do anything with the spinach. So all of these things you just have in your freezer. When you're ready to get cooking, you just take it out and put it in a bowl. So it's really super easy. So again, for a couple minutes here, I'm having the onion and the celery kind of heat up on the pan for a couple minutes. And then once it's a little bit softened, then I'm gonna go ahead and add the frozen cauliflower and the spinach, as well as some herbs. So the herbs I'm gonna use are a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of dried thyme, and a little bit of salt. Now, I tend to not tell people kind of what herbs I want them to use, because it really just depends on people's kind of if they have any GI symptoms or any other comorbidities. So in particular, we tend to, when we cook, add tons of salt to everything. When we're putting in a stir fry, we add salt. When we put it in the oven, we add salt. When we're kind of finishing it off, we add salt. And then at the end of the meal, we end up consuming so much salt that our fingers swell at the end of the night. So we really do have to be careful with how much salt we add. And I really recommend that people use kind of non-salt alternatives as much as possible, particularly if they have things like kidney disease and hypertension or high blood pressure. Other things as far as the herbs, so onion and garlic notoriously cause bloating. They are high in certain carbohydrates that basically break down into hydrogen, methane, and sulfur, so gas molecules. So if you're someone that suffers from some of those symptoms, then adding a bunch of onion, even the dried onion or garlic, can sometimes promote the bloating. So you can use kind of other herbs, like let's say turmeric or cilantro, things like that. Okay, so things are heating up here.
I think there's a celebrity that just joined the cooking event. Oh, you
What?
did a celebrity wave.
Yes, Amo Perlmano!
There are lookalikes here? You guys know each other?
I don't know, she looks familiar. Okay, so I got the onions and the celery sizzling over here. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add my frozen cauliflower and the spinach, and that's gonna go and heat up for about 10 minutes.
In case you were wondering, Michelle, I'm putting my onion and celery on the pan now.
I was wondering, thank you.
I thought you would be.
All right, well, it's smelling really good here. I don't see any smoke coming from anyone else's kitchen.
No, my smoker's outside. I'm about to start a brisket for 24 hours. Is a brisket healthy?
It depends what your goals are. Remember, there is no good definition of healthy. It all just depends on what your goals are, what medical problems you may have, and if you want six-pack abs. Okay.
No.
While this is actually cooking, I'm going to show you something else that I've prepared. So I'm going to pose a question to you all. You all can see this huge meal right here, right? It looks like a huge pasta dish. It looks pretty darn good. So this I made right before this event. It took me 10 minutes. So what is on here, I don't know if you all can see it. So I have half of a small Hass avocado. I had my acorn squash that I literally just popped in the oven. There was nothing added to it. The additional stuff that's on here are mushrooms. They were already pre-cut, just like a pint of mushrooms that I threw in the stir fry pan. So this dish is actually like a vegetarian option for people who, let's say, don't want the ground turkey. So there is mushrooms, there is tofu, there is onion, there's celery. I have my acorn squash, my avocado, and then my trick here is it's actually not pasta, believe it or not. It's actually this pasta called new pasta, which is basically like a fiber noodle. And for all of this, it's 35 calories and 6 grams of carbs. And all of those grams of carbs are actually dietary fiber. So what does that mean? That means, dietary fiber is basically like it's a plant and our body does not digest it. So all those carbs, there's basically zero net carbs, okay? So if you all had to guess, how many calories do you think is contained in this giant plate, which would probably serve 2 or 3 people? So how many calories do you think is in like half of a Hass avocado?
150?
Correct.
My
So
guess.
exactly. So depending on the size, anywhere between like 150, 200 calories. In this little acorn squash, it probably equates to about a cup. It's probably going to be around probably 60 calories or so. So we have 60 calories plus 150, that leaves us at 210. The noodles are 35 calories, so that's 200, let's just round up, 250 calories. The tofu was about a third of the box, so that equates to about 100 calories. So now we're at 350 calories. And then the mushrooms, the onion, and the celery, let's just round up even and say that's 100 calories. So rounding up, and it's probably even less than this huge plate of food has 450 calories. And the only grams of carbs that you're getting from this is from your vegetables, which is phenomenal. So the amount of net carbs is actually super low because there's so much dietary fiber in here. So imagine being told that you could eat all of this or split it, have half of it for dinner, half for lunch, and super low in calories. Most people, one of their meals is 500 calories, and I would bet most of you probably wouldn't finish this entire thing. So there's so many great options where you can eat a ton of volume. People often think that when they are trying to lose weight, they have to starve themselves, and that is so far from the truth. If you are more strategic about where you're getting your calories, you will actually get to eat more, much larger portions, feel more full, and actually feel a lot better. So you just have to kind of be a smart consumer about it. Any questions so far? Someone's making a lot of noise.
Oh, sorry. Is that me? Sorry. I was going to ask on the cauliflower, which I think I'm about ready to put in.
Yeah.
Why do you go with frozen cauliflower? Is that just convenience or?
Yeah, it cooks down a little bit faster. If you're using raw, it's going to take you a little bit longer. So if you wanted to do fresh cauliflower, then I would just honestly heat it up in the microwave a little bit. Like if you're doing rice cauliflower, I would heat it up a little bit just to soften it. That way it cooks a little bit faster. The raw is going to take a little bit longer to cook down. Plus, it's also nice because if people are kind of stockpiling their food and they're worried that they're not going to eat all of it before it goes bad, if you get the frozen stuff, you don't even have to worry about that. The nutrients are basically the same because they kind of flash freeze it when the fruit or the vegetable is at its ripest. So you really shouldn't worry about it. Any plain frozen vegetable is fair game. Now once you start getting the vegetables that have added sauces and tons of preservatives, then that's a whole nother story. But there is absolutely nothing wrong with frozen vegetables. And they're often a lot cheaper too. And when you buy them in bulk, then it's actually you're saving money. Okay, so my stuff is cooking down very nicely. I'm going to add the vegetable broth. So it's half a cup of vegetable broth to the frozen spinach and the cauliflower. Now you could honestly add whatever type of broth you want. You could use kind of homemade broth. If you want even more protein, then you could actually use like a bone broth. Those are great options. There's about 8 grams of protein in bone broth. So it really just depends on kind of what flavor you're looking for. But the one I used was vegetable broth. And then you're just gonna sprinkle a little bit of salt on top. I was told that my hummus guacamole dip was quite bland, so feel free to be, use the seasonings, which I tend not to do, and maybe that's why I can't get a date. How's everyone doing? Everyone's like very quiet. I want to hear some sizzling. There we go. I hear some sizzling.
Okay, I'm good. I think I'm good.
What step are you on, Yuval?
I'm in the step where I'm heating the water to make the broth from the home.
Yeah, I just pulled out some chicken broth from the pantry. I thought we had some, but it's actually in the freezer homemade.
Yeah,
and
I mean, it
forgot
honestly
to-
doesn't matter depending on what you like. I often use like mushroom broth. You could use like a seafood broth. They all have kind of different herbs added to it. It honestly doesn't matter. But also keep in mind that these kind of pre-made broths already have a ton of sodium in them. And then we're also adding salt in other ways. So you can also just get the low sodium variety too. Because once you over salt it, then there's no going back. You can always add additional salt if you want. So I'm going to take a poll with you all. Do you all know the difference between like Himalayan salt and sea salt and just, all those different varieties of salt? Is one better than the other? Amy, this is a quiz for you because we did a webinar on this, so I'm hoping you remember a thing or two. But what do you all think? Is one salt better than the other? Amy, you're muted.
Or you might not have your audio input on the right setting. Hit settings on the top right there, Amy, next to leave event, and you should be able to adjust your audio input. I think the other Michelle who's on might actually know the answer to that one.
Great job throwing someone under the bus.
Well, in fairness, she is on her laptop just watching the session, so I think she's probably on Google checking out the answer.
Hey, so am I.
How dare you?
Yeah, so there's actually really no
What we would
difference.
call domestic madness yet?
There's actually really no difference. We often, with all these different health claims out there, people tend to think one salt is better than the other, but that's not true. So what exactly is salt? Salt is just a very generic term for a positive ion and a negatively charged ion put together. That's what a salt is. Why do we call kind of table salt sodium? That's because kind of the normal table salt is a sodium ion plus chloride. And the chloride is really not active in regards to our body. It's the sodium molecule that is. So when people talk about salt, we're really referring to the sodium. And that's why when you look at a nutrition label, it doesn't say sodium chloride. It literally states kind of the salt content as sodium. So you can have magnesium salts. There's a million different salts out there just based on putting two molecules together. So in all general terms, okay, salt is salt, and they all affect the body pretty similarly. Some, it really just depends on where did you get the salt as far as which region of the world. Did they take out the impurities or are they still in there? If they cut the salt with anything, if they're adding any additional herbs or anything to the salt. But in the general sense, table salt is Himalayan salt, etc. They all kind of affect the body the same. Okay, so let's
So how much
see.
to
Yeah.
cook those vegetables?
Say that again?
The vegetables, they need to be like soft.
Yeah, because you're going to eat them. I mean, they should be kind of ready to eat once you're done cooking, because the butternut squash is still cooking here. Let's see. Yeah, it's getting soft. But basically, when the butternut squash is done, mine has about 10 more minutes, then you literally just take your stir fry and you put it inside the butternut squash, and that's the meal. And then you can add, some herbs on top as well. I forgot to mention, so now's the time that we're actually going to add your thyme and then your garlic powder. Now again, if you're someone that suffers from significant flatus, like my sister Amy Pearl, just kidding. You want to minimize then the garlic and the onion, but these are great seasonings. So a teaspoon of the thyme, and then a teaspoon of the dried garlic. And I'm actually pretending like I'm an actual chef because I'm doing a pinch. So I'll pretend like I know that I think that's actually a teaspoon.
This is smelling really good.
Yeah.
I can say that much.
I'm just thinking how I'm gonna stuff all this into my.
Well, no. So here's the good news. This is why we called it refresh, rejuvenate, and repurpose. Because you are going to have some leftover stuffing, and the leftover stuffing we're going to actually add that ground turkey to, and then you can make a stir fry for another meal. So you're not going to use all the stuffing to fill that butternut squash.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I feel much better now.
My fear is that this gets overly mushy.
Is that's really your fear?
At the moment.
At the moment, Yuval's fear is that it doesn't actually cook down enough at all, and it's still
Really?
frozen. No, I'm kidding. I don't know what your situation is over there.
Yeah, I don't know how much it's like. It is kind of soft.
No, that's the goal. I mean, it's like a stuffing, so it's going to kind of taste like a stuffing where it's very soft.
I'm just gonna eat it.
I'm also, yeah, what does it taste like? I'm also wondering if I should kind of break down.
So
some of the
this is what mine looks
cauliflower.
like here.
Oh yeah. To make it a little bit smaller pieces
Here's
of
mine.
cauliflower.
Yeah, I mean that looks
yeah.
amazing. So it is going to be soft. You know, it literally is like a stuffing. The cauliflower kind of serves as that kind of bread that you would normally eat.
Oh.
I'm stuffing some bread with it.
No, bread. There was no bread on the menu.
Oh, there's always better than my house.
Are you hijacking my cooking show here with the bread? So my stuffing is actually done. Where are you all at with your butternut squash?
It says I have 7 minutes left on the timer, but
Okay.
I mean I could stick a fork to it.
Oh, you know what? I actually forgot to put on my apron here.
Oh, now it's official.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did any of you actually buy like the non-starchy pasta that I'd added for the repurpose portion?
I was in the supermarket trying
Yeah.
to figure out even what it is. Plus there was like yeast or something.
Yep, yeah. So let me
So
show
I
you
got
this.
I got this.
So, okay, that works. That's perfect. So this is actually nutritional yeast here. It's basically just dried yeast, and they add a ton of B vitamins to it. The nice thing about this is it's got 5 grams of protein, 3 carbs, and 2 grams of dietary fiber, and 35 calories per serving for a tablespoon. So I will actually sprinkle this on top of like a stir fry, and it gives you actually like a cheesy, nutty flavor. So it's an awesome option. They typically sell it where they have like pasta sauce or like Parmesan cheese. So it's definitely something to check out because it's much lower in calories than regular cheese. And people who maybe are trying to limit dairy, it's a great option.
I also hear it's really good to have on popcorn. I've never had it because we've actually never had it before.
Yeah.
So this recipe made me go out and buy it.
Yeah. Now,
sorry.
that one that you bought, I don't know what brand it is. I'm not sure if they have added, say, that one. Okay. I like this one. It's from Broggs. Broggs also makes this liquid aminos. I don't know if you all have tried that. I put that on this kind of Asian stir fry with the tofu because it's kind of less sodium than normal soy sauce. So I use this all the time. I like this brand. It's going to depend on, it's Broggs. This is Broggs amino acids.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then this is the nutritional yeast. The nutritional yeast, I've tried a couple types. They all have kind of various flavors to them. I like this one. I haven't tried the Bob's one. Okay, so that's those toppings. And then, so the other non-starchy pasta options, this is phenomenal. They were actually on Shark Tank. It's called palmini. And all it is hearts of palm noodles. It's phenomenal. They also sell it in cans, which is the same thing. And they sell it actually like in lasagna noodles. So you could make a lasagna using like, tomato sauce, ground turkey, and actually the lasagna noodles of hearts of palm and mushrooms and eggplant or whatever as your pasta. So all you do is you drain out the water.
So what do I do with these noodles? They're frozen, just unfreeze?
Oh yeah, so if you're doing frozen, then just go ahead and pop them in the microwave for, if it says like 4 minutes or something, you can pop those in the microwave because that's gonna be part of our repurpose. But these are nice because I will literally just eat these raw. Again, it's the hearts of palm noodles. This is what they look like. And then you can add whatever you want, ground turkey or whatever. So it's 20 calories per serving. For this whole bowl, it is 60 calories. So again, another great option to kind of feed your brain, make you think like you're eating a big bowl of pasta. A serving of pasta, which is about 1/3 of a cup, is usually close to 200 calories. So when you compare them, 1/3 of a cup of pasta, 200 calories, close to 40 grams of carbs, versus this is probably 2 or 3 cups of pasta and a total of 12 grams of carbs. So you're actually eating probably 3 times as much pasta for 1/3 as many carbs and calories. So it's just a phenomenal option. So a lot of kind of what I try to teach people is we're so used to eating the rice and the bread and the pasta because we want to feel full, but just get creative with vegetables because again, higher in fiber, lower in carbs, lower in calorie. You get to actually eat more and still enjoy your food. And then they also have, those are the fiber noodles, those are the hearts of palm, and then they have, these are, it's called Pasta Zero, and these are just another option. So it depends on what store you're going to. They tend to have them usually at Publix, sometimes at Winn-Dixie. They do have them at Whole Foods. They have them at Milam's. You can also order them online. There's a brand called Miracle Noodle. So they're all over the place, online or in most grocery stores. Okay, so my butternut squash is ready, so I'm gonna go ahead and take it out. And it's looking phenomenal. Okay, so here is what we have, the butternut squash and the stuffing. Now, I'll leave it up to you kind of on how you want to do this. Obviously, you have the whole, so you could put a little bit of stuffing in there, right? Or you could take out more of the flesh of the squash and save some of it for later. That way you can put more of the other vegetables inside. It honestly doesn't matter. Say that again? Did someone say something?
My daughter is making
Oh, okay,
bread
okay.
at the same time.
So I put 2 servings, honestly, on this recipe, but these butternuts, the butternut squash is honestly huge. The butternut squash is way more than a serving. So if you have it's going to be 4 servings. So what I would honestly do is probably cut it in half like this. So I could use this for another meal another day. And then I literally have this of the butternut squash, and now I'm gonna go ahead and put my stuffing inside. So this is honestly super easy. You could put it in a thing of Tupperware and bring it to work. and very easy. You know, you can just pop it in the microwave to kind of heat it up a little bit right before you're ready to eat, but very simple. Where are you all at?
That looks delicious.
I'm fishing this, and now I need to stuff it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see. Oh no, my cauliflower went down.
And then, you know, I don't like to add tons of ingredients because, again, everyone has their own preferences. But if you wanted to add a little bit of tomato sauce or, you know, Parmesan cheese, those are all added things that you can do. But at least the base of the dish is low carb and low calorie, and it's really going to fill you up. And it's super versatile because now you have this for a whole nother meal. You have the stuffing that we're going to repurpose, and this is super easy to put in Tupperware and bring to work or whatever. Okay, so that's that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do the repurpose portion, and it's really just adding extra protein, which is the ground turkey. So what you're going to do is you have your pan. You don't need to wash it because we're literally just going to put the stuffing back in afterwards just to mix it all. So just use that same pan. Go ahead and put a little oil in there on medium heat. And then the recipe calls for a pound of ground turkey. So you could do ground chicken, it really just depends, or ground beef, whatever you prefer. So a pound is actually 16 ounces, so each serving of a protein is about 4 ounces. If you're doing something that's higher in fat like ground beef, then typically the serving is going to actually be 3 ounces. So here is 16 ounces of the ground turkey, and so ultimately kind of this next dish is going to end up being probably closer to 4 servings. So we're going to go ahead and put this in the pan. And then you want to kind of break it up a little bit so it's not just one big ball. Okay, so that is cooking. And then while that's cooking, so really the last step is we're going to use our leftover stuffing here, and then we're just going to add it to the pan with the ground turkey, and then you add in whatever pasta option it is, and then you have a huge dish. So obviously it's a huge amount of food. I live by myself. I'm obviously not going to eat, you know, a whole pound of ground turkey, but you know, people always tell me that they don't have enough time to meal prep. I, you know, made this huge meal in less than 40 minutes, and most of that was actually talking. It does not take time. I mean, it takes time. It does not take more time to eat healthy than it does to eat unhealthy. Because just by making this one dish and then repurposing it, I mean, that could be anywhere between 4 and 8 different meals for me. And then if you want to kind of change up the vegetables, then you have one meal where you have the tofu, you can add mushrooms, you can add asparagus. You just throw in different vegetables, but you use kind of the same base like the squash or the noodles, so you don't get bored. Or you change around your herbs a little bit. Sometimes you can use, let's say, turmeric or cilantro or oregano or rosemary, ways to kind of change the flavor a little bit. But again, your base is always kind of the low carbohydrate vegetables, and then adding in whatever protein is your preference. Right?
Yeah, this is super fast and a ton of food. I'd still be in line at McDonald's, honestly.
Yeah, and the thing is, what people always tell me is that, you know, eating healthier is more expensive or it takes more time. That's actually not true, because a lot of the processed foods out there are high in calorie but low in nutrient density. And yeah, they may be a little bit cheaper. But when we talk about price per kind of nutrient density, eating foods like this have so many more nutrients. You may be paying a little bit more, but you're actually getting much more bang for your buck. Believe it or not, a lot of people who are overweight or obese are still actually considered malnourished and often have a lot of nutrient deficiencies. even people who are normal weight, you know, because we think what we're eating just because it has calories, that it's actually serving our body a purpose. And I'm a firm believer that if we really are more strategic about where we're getting our calories from food, then we really should not need supplements for most of us, unless you've had, you know, certain abdominal surgeries or whatnot. So my ground turkey is actually almost done here. And the nice thing about the, you know, the ground turkey or the chicken is it's going to cook super fast.
So once the ground turkey is done, that's when you add in the leftover.
Exactly.
Uh,
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Because right now, obviously, our stuffing is cooked and still warm, so you don't want to add it in too early because then you may overcook it. But if, let's say, you had the stuffing that was in the fridge for a day or two, then you're going to want to probably cook it a little bit longer. So my ground turkey is almost done, so I'm going to add the stuffing, and then you're going to add whatever non-starchy pasta you want to it as well.
I think we should get Dr. Amy Croman on here soon to give a class.
Maybe on eggplant. Amy, you can do an eggplant dish. She didn't find that funny.
I don't think she hears us,
Oh.
or she's just giving us the absolute. She can't talk. She's a mute.
So I'm going to go ahead and throw in my hearts of palm noodles because my dish is almost done here.
Do those take a while to cook down? Like
No, I eat them raw, but they're already, you can eat it raw. I'm just doing it so it kind of melds all the flavors together, but you don't actually have to cook it down. That's also true with like the tofu pasta or the fiber pasta.
What do we do with the leftover squash?
Well, so we don't have a repurpose episode tonight. But yeah, what you can do is you can literally just take this and then you slice it up. You can kind of cube it. And then you scoop it out, put it in a bowl. And then if you want to use that air fryer, then when you're ready for your next meal, you can just throw those cubes in the air fryer and make it a little bit crispy.
Oh,
Other options that I use actually with butternut squash is I actually add them to my smoothie. So I will actually freeze the butternut squash and I will add diced butternut squash to my smoothie with like a vanilla protein powder and some unsweetened almond milk. And that actually kind of thickens it up a little bit. So there's so many things that you can do with squash. So look at how good this looks here. A huge pan. Let me go ahead and put it on this plate if it's going to fit.
the zucchini pasta.
Here's what ours is looking like. We did some zoodles with our little zoodler. I think that's the technical term for it, spiralizer.
Yeah, so when you get a spiralizer, you can literally use any vegetable. You could do, I don't think cucumber would cook down well, but you know, squash, zucchini, eggplant, so many different things that you can do.
All right, let's plate it.
So here, I mean, look at this huge freaking plate.
No, I think I oversalted the cauliflower. It tasted so bland earlier.
And now with the nutritional yeast, so this is the nutritional yeast. So if you want to add like that nutty, cheesy flavor, then you literally just take it and you kind of sprinkle it on top. You all can see that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Did you put the yeast on top? You just sprinkle it?
You just sprinkle the nutritional yeast on top. And then you can add, if you wanted to add, it's not part of this recipe, but fresh herbs, like some parsley, chives, whatever you want. I leave it up to you. It really just depends on what your kind of taste preferences are. But I mean, look at this. I have these 2 huge plates of food right here. And then I have a bunch of Tupperware. I'm just gonna go ahead and portion it out into Tupperware, put some in the fridge and the rest in the freezer, and then I can heat it up later. And this is literally 8 meals that I made in a very short period of time.
I think I want to add some cheese. Pardon me.
Dr. Cronin, can you look away, please, while we
No, so I don't judge. I do not judge. Everyone has their own preferences. Cheese is not bad. I think we in general just eat too much of certain things. But if you want to sprinkle a little bit of Parmesan or whatever you want on top, I think that is totally fine. People who are lactose intolerant do tolerate hard cheeses. If you're lactose intolerant, you're often going to have issues with the soft cheeses like mozzarella or cottage cheese, because the soft cheeses actually have lactose in them. The hard cheeses tend to not actually have lactose.
Is this related to the amount of fat or the softness? Or it's both?
You mean in regards to the lactose?
Yes.
So lactose is actually a sugar. It's 2 sugar molecules put together, glucose plus galactose. It has nothing to do with the fat content. It just has to do with the type of sugar in it. People who lose the lactase enzyme in their small intestine, which is very common as we get older, we can't break down that molecule. Yeah.
But the molecule, so it doesn't appear in hard cheeses more? Or
Yeah, that molecule tends to not be in hard cheeses, or it's present in very small amounts. So if you drink the good kind of gauge is if you drink a cup of cow's milk and you get symptoms, you're probably lactose intolerant, because cow's milk has a lot of lactose in it. But there are certain things like Greek yogurt that do have lactose in it, but it's a very small amount. And whatever bacteria is actually in the yogurt breaks it all down anyway. So people who are lactose intolerant can still actually tolerate Greek yogurt. So yeah,
Okay.
It depends on the amount as well, not just the type of cheese or the milk.
okay, I think I'm done with this. So, it came out.
Wow.
That looks great.
Yeah, with the zucchini.
What was your spinach ratio in your stuffing?
I'll tell you, it's the cheese that made a difference.
Oh, I can't even see the spinach anymore because there's so much cheese on there.
Yeah. You can sprinkle some meat. You have your brisket.
My brisket, it's not
Put
ready
some
yet.
brisket on top.
It still has another 36 hours on the smoker.
And then again,
Dr. Cronin, I have a question.
yes.
It's not really related, but it made me think about it because of the nutritional yeast. It
Yeah.
says sprinkle on popcorn.
Yeah.
So popcorn,
Yeah.
good or bad, good for you on your insides. I sometimes find I get a little less.
I'm going to pay you for this, or I'm not going to pay you. You're going to have to pay me for this
You're going to charge
consultation.
me for this.
Yes, I
Gassy.
charge extra.
The word is gassy.
Exactly.
No, I was going to say
Yeah.
constipated.
Wait, what
Well-
were you saying about popcorn and your digestive tract? I'm very interested in this, Danny.
So popcorn really doesn't have much nutritional value. My goal as a physician is to teach people how to eat. You know, if we take a pill, we take it for a reason. I look at the same kind of way in regards to food. If I'm going to eat something, I want to eat it for a reason. So things like popcorn, there's really no nutritional value. If you want something for a snack, it's probably better than having, chocolate covered raisins, or it's probably better than having a Snickers bar. But again, I don't like to label things as good or bad, because even too much of a good thing can still be a bad thing. So again, it just depends on what your goal is. There are always better alternatives. Popcorn is a better alternative than some other things, but a lot of it is just how you respond to it. So people just need to be more mindful of their reactions or their sensitivities to food. If I, let's say, ate a whole head of broccoli and I felt bloated, then I have to anticipate that I'm going to feel bloated the next time I eat a whole head of broccoli.
Got Thank you for that aside.
Any other questions I can answer before I get to chow down on this delicious meal?
Should we do a quick photo op, Yuval? Are you?
Oh, I'm always ready for a photo op.
Is someone able to take a screenshot though? Because my phone's recording.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay.
I hope that's a good
Is this a good,
angle.
That's your good side, Yuval.
is that a good angle? Good.
Yuval, turn it around. We're getting an applause from the crowd. I love it.
Right.
Did you get it?
I got some screenshots.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
That's awesome.
That's my mom and dad.
Gosh, we didn't get to see it. Did we get it? Can you show it again? I don't think Dr. Froman saw it.
Very nice then.
Thank you on it. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now we're gonna eat.
Awesome. Thank you all for joining. This was fun.
All right, thanks for being willing to bear with our super early product.
Of course. No, I think the issue was I signed in way too early.
Yeah. Oh, that's not the only issue.